the GMOs. It is a great topic now in Kenya, genetically modified organisms. And it has brought an issue, a controversy over the new Ruto administration. Even the members of parliament are saying they want to impeach Minister for Trade, Mr. Moses Kuria, because he has authorized for the importation of genetically modified maize. Genetically modified crops is a crop which has genetic makeup altered in order to produce more or to resist diseases or herbicides, things like that. This is the same thing which has been happening with what we have been calling crossbreeding. Crossbreeding has been in us for a long time. We do crossbreeding at times, like if we wanted a good breed of a cow, like we had to do a crossbreeding in one way or another. Like we crossbreed cows to get Frisians. Frisians was a result of some crossbreeding. So we talk of a cow which is mixed. That was more like it was a traditional way of doing things. So, but this one, this type of plant breeding that takes the desirable gene trait from one organism and implants it in another, is to create a new, more stronger or resistant organism, is what we call a genetically modified one, which is kind of different from the old traditional method of that crossbreeding. So that we don't need, like if you wanted a good cow, that you had to take it to an oxen which can be able to give that. So exactly what is the fact of these two methods? I would like you to look at the two methods of the traditional method is whereby the donor via the DNA strand. Like if you want, that was a more the traditional plant breeding process introduces a number of genes into the plant. These genes may include genes responsible for the desired characteristic you want, if you want it to be bigger or resistant, but you would also take with them the genes responsible for an unwanted characteristic too. So you can see the other one, when they combine the two, the new variety strain, that is the traditional method which we used to do most of the time. But now with this genetically engineered, you only go take it, the DNA from this organism, and then insert it in a recipient strand to make a new strand with only that specific one which you targeted. That is what is called genetically engineering, other than the traditional method which we have been using for the time being. So, what is all this fuss about that the GMO maize is bad, is dangerous? That is the same token we heard about vaccines. Many people were having all these about vaccines issues. And that is why many people never wanted to take vaccines, because how they were manufactured. But in the same packet, and to give a brief history, history of genetic modification, as you know, 10,000 years back, the population of the world was less than not even 100,000 people. But as the population increased in 1800, we were less than 1 billion people in the world. But there was, that time, the farmers started crossbreeding of crops, and the crop which they started was wheat, because wheat was the most stable food. And then in the 1940s now, they started increasing this idea of creating good foods. And in 1980, the genetically modified maize was invented, which was more resistant, growing well. And from that time, actually, this has been production of maize commercially grown, and it, like in the US, we have heard of that, and many plants, cotton, and pawpaw, and many other crops have been genetically modified, and we have a lot of them in the world right now. Like in the United States, much of the food which is produced in the U.S., maize, is actually genetically modified. So this is not something new. It is something which has been going on all the time. But what is this force? Why we are not in a position to do that? What is happening in the world now? Because it's like we are in, as our population is increasing, and this now brings us to what we call the Malthusian theory of population growth. Malthusian said that the population of the world increases geometrically at a geometric rate, while food production increases at an arithmetic rate. That the world population is increasing exponentially, while the food production is increasing slowly. So, in that graph, it says that as the constant, if we continue to produce food in the normal traditional way, while the population is increasing so fast, when it increases, what happens? There is scarcity of food, there are more people, mouths to feed than the food production, and then it causes what we call a Malthusian trap. In this Malthusian trap, then it will cause a Malthusian catastrophe. The population will increase. If it increases, what happens? There are more people to feed than the food. So more people will die. There will be wars because of scarcity of things, and we will have a Malthusian catastrophe where the population will die. And because of that, that's why many agricultural methods have been introduced in the West, and actually in many countries of the world, we still have, for us to feed these people, the population is increasing at an alarming rate. Right now, the world has 8 billion people. The world's population has been increasing. Now, having to feed 8 billion people, that's a big number. If we cannot produce the food at the same rate, what is going to happen? Because you can see that 10,000 BC to the present, if you can see when it was semi-nomadic era, early agriculture was just the traditional. There was a lot of plenty of food, and we came to the era of city-states. People started living well. The population started increasing. Era of empires, the population increased, and we are on this stage now because of the empires and the governments, and we have increased to that facet of where we are having a lot of people in the world. We cannot use the same traditional methods of doing this. We have been eating the same MPs at a double standard. When they go to the West, they eat food which is from genetically modified, But they come home now, they are saying they don't want that same. What is the truth about all this is that we can be able to feed our people, but we cannot feed our people in the most traditional way. We have to increase and have our people get the food. That's really, if we look at the world population now, you can see if you go to most northern parts of Kenya, Somalia, and Southern Sudan, there is a lot of famine in that area. People are dying, children are dying, they don't have enough food to eat. Would you rather die of famine or die from GMO food? You see, in 1950, the world population in Africa was only 230 million. That is 1950. Now the world population stands at 8 billion in the world, where sub-Saharan Africa and other places like Asia are increasing at an alarming rate. By 2030, the population of the world is projected in sub-Saharan Africa will be 8.5 billion people. 2050 it will be 9.7 billion. 2100 it is hitting at 10 billion in Africa alone. Can we be able to sustain and feed our people from this kind of foods the way we are arguing now? If that is how the population of the world is going to be. Now, the corn production, you can see most of the country, US produces the highest, about 40% of the world food, of corn, and China. Even Ukraine produces more. Mexico produces more. Do they produce it through the traditional way? No. They use this genetically modified method to get this food. So what is the food? But does really Kenya need to import GMO, or it was Kenya is able to produce enough food if good policies farmers, most of farmers don't even have, they can't even sell their maize to cereal. There is a lot of corruption in cereal. If there would be a good streamlined way of buying maize from farmers. Farmers now in the Great Rift Valley are harvesting their food. We have not harnessed that. All we need to increase is to streamline marketing and storage of the food. Most of the maize from farmers don't get to the market. They are frustrated because they are cartels. And that is what exactly President Ruto needs to do. He comes from an agricultural area. Ruto should be the last person to import when his backyard there's maize. I guess, I mean, let us not say that GMO are bad, but let us say, do we really need it to import it? If Uganda would be running now, if it is not because of corruption, we would be producing more maize in that irrigation. Kenya's food policy needs to change. At this time, I would advise President Ruto, one of the things, to stop this matter of GMO and make a quick assessment of the maize. Where are the maize in Kenya? Make sure that maize is bought and stored, proper storage, and then give assessment how much you need. Source it from other countries like East African countries like Tanzania, Uganda, Congo, where there is food production. If we can do that, it can do that fast. And President Ruto, you need to stop being an expert of everything. You cannot be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Listen to what people are telling you. Leave some of these jobs you will wear out because you can't do anything. Even Moses tried to lead the people of Israel that he was the only one who was to rule to find cases until he met his father in Rochester and put these people in groups. Listen to experts and listen to people who know exactly what is happening. If we can have a good food policy, we won't be here. And that is what you need to do, because there are some of the things which you might end up explaining and then they will mess you up. I hope even most of the people who really don't understand how the economy is run, but even the corn production still, I know we can still make, we are able to produce more and make our country self-sufficient with food if we have to avoid this Malthusian catastrophe. The one we are saying that we need to change the production, because the top world maize producers in tons, you can see. US produces that because of using genetically modified. China and Brazil and all those. How did they do it? Can't we borrow some leave on it? in those some of the areas, the cost of production, how much to produce average maize output in kilogram per hectare. The highest you can see where they are doing it is in the United States, which is very dark, in Europe, in China, in Brazil. And these are the countries which produce more. Why are they doing it? They are doing the best practice. So we need to produce our own GMO in Kenya so that if we want to increase this food production in our country. That should be the main focus that if the farmers will be advised to use these good methods, then we can be able to produce more instead of saying that